Hello, this is Tony Rasmussen, welcoming you back to episode 25, the anime episode. This is my personal favorite episode of season 2, by the way. This episode first aired March 23rd, I do believe. February 28th. I actually do not remember. I first want to state, the last episode, I apologize for the stuttering and the blank spaces. Talking about something like Gamergate or the feminism and gaming issue it's kind of difficult. So, but I want to kind of apologize for that, why I even brought it up. So, talking about this episode, the origin of this episode stems from a few different sources. I got two main ones though. The first was that during the year break that we had between season 1 and 2, there were so many ideas that we were going through, what we wanted to do. There was a planned episode about WWE, there was a planned episode about, the unsung heroes of, lost networks. There was all these ideas, and by the way, about television networks, not, networks. One of them we were going to do was my top 3 favorite and least favorite animes. And anime is an interesting subject because for me it's hard to talk about because I was not really into it when I was a kid. And I know it's kind of ironic because, you're talking to someone here who grew up with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that. But it's funny because I never was really into all that stuff. Like, I collected the cards, but I never really, watched any of the shows. So, for me, I didn't really get introduced to anime until I was probably about 9, 10. And I would say it was right around that time, Toonami was really hitting it big. And everyone was really, into Toonami. Toonami, to me, was it was that starting period of when all the good anime started to come. Like, Dragon Ball showed up in the 80s, in the early 90s, and it was good, but the footage for Sailor Moon here came from the Nostalgia Critic review of Sailor Moon. So, I didn't really feel like going out and finding an episode of Sailor Moon, so I apologize. Not really. I have my good reasons. But yeah, I never really watched it until I was about 10, 11. And it's just, I ended up really dazzled by it. I was appalled. I really, really appreciated the hard work. And it's interesting to talk about it because, the other influence to do this episode was a friend of mine. And she was a foreign exchange student, and by the way, I'll probably send her a link to this commentary so she can hear it. But seeing, and hearing about, her own personal life, living in, Japan, I kind of got thinking about, the stuff I love from Japan too, the games, Nintendo's, games and, Namco and Sega, they're all great. And then, the next thought that came to my mind was, oh yeah, I guess, I could go back to think about my, my old love for, anime. And this one in particular, Cowboy Bebop, is my favorite of all time. It is my personal favorite. Cowboy Bebop was, I had to drink water by the way, Cowboy Bebop was the first one I ever watched. And it was on Adult Swim, and I really loved it. I thought, this is so unique. This is so interesting. And even to remember these many years later, and to still be influenced by that, that's astounding. Not many shows do that to me. Like, I would say this show, The Simpsons and South Park, those are maybe the top 3 that can still keep me resonating to keep watching it. Even, after all these years, even keep remembering it. Like, I remember watching early episodes of South Park, when I was 8, 9. I would be at my aunt's house. It's the same thing with Cowboy Bebop. Late nights at your aunt's house while they're playing cards, and you're watching TV. Cartoon Network was done, Adult Swim was on. As long as you understood, you don't repeat what you say, you could watch it, and it'd be fun. Cowboy Bebop is still my favorite. It's still my favorite for good reasons. I think the stories are unique. I think the characters are unique. Every character is really three-dimensional. There is a lot to be said about this show. But, and also, by the way, this show is like the only anime I ever bought on DVD. Yeah, I literally went out and bought it after Christmas. It cost $30 for the whole 5-disc set, but it was worth it. I thought it was worth it. Naruto is one I really despise. I despise it more or less for the hype. I can understand what they're going for, but I despise it for the hype. And it's kind of funny because I have a friend who she's really into Naruto, and I would be baffled over why back in high school, and I'd be like, you know, why do you love that? And her real question then to me would be like, well, why do you love something like Cowboy Bebop? Well, it resonated in me as a kid. You know, I've still remembered it, and I still love it fondly. So I'm guessing it was probably the same feeling she got when she was a kid watching it. But back onto the story of the friend. Her, you know, talking to her more about the culture and stuff, she told me at one point, she's like, well, I'm usually not that big into it. And, you know, at one point also then she told me her, you know, her favorites were, you know, One Piece, you know, Shin, I'm trying to remember the name, I'm sorry, and Doraemon. And the funny thing is, months after this episode aired, I finally got to see Doraemon, because Disney bought the rights, and they started running the show on Disney XD, and I saw it, and I laughed my ass off. I thought it was funny. I read the mangas. I thought it was funny. Now Doraemon's up there with Cowboy Bebop as some of my favorites. Inuyasha is another one of my favorites. It just resonates with you after a certain period. What I think is funny is, you know, it's the thought that someone, especially, you know, someone who grew up in that culture, you know, who really, you know, and again, she stated to me she never really watched that much, so she had her top 3 favorites, you know, and I kind of have now my top 3, top 4, but it's funny how, like, even with the culture change, you can still tell there is some form of relatability when discussing it. And, you know, I've heard, you know, many people say, like, oh, you know, often the people who watch it are basement dwellers. They're not really basement dwellers. It depends on how you watch it. You know, someone like me, I watch it casually, you know. Cowboy Bebop, like I said, is the only anime I have on DVD. And I watch it because I'm a fan. I love the, you know, it resonated with me as a kid. So, yeah, and, you know, the basement dweller type people are the people who are really obsessed with it. So that was the ending, or would have been the mid-season finale. The ending of that episode was supposed to be a cliffhanger, but that cliffhanger never got solved. So the reason this became the banned episode was because of copyright claims, accordingly from Starz and then from Funimation. And I'm going to really get into the story here, so I'm going to kind of go over the time limit. But the story of those two was, okay, I uploaded the video, and I didn't really at that point think of any changes. So I uploaded the video, and all of a sudden, about probably a day or two later, I get a message saying, Starz has, you know, put copyright notice on your video, the anime episode. I'm like, huh, interesting, really. I'd love to know why. And I read through, and it's like, okay, the clock tower mystery. I'm going to assume that they're talking about Astro Boy, because I can't really think of any other show that really is that much footage of. So maybe Astro Boy. I can't really think Sailor Moon. Or they'll say what it said, Sailor Moon or Astro Boy, but they didn't really say what it was. So that happened. So what I ended up doing is I took it down, I re-edited it, I cut down on the Astro Boy stuff, I resubmitted it, and all of a sudden, within an hour, it was like, another copyright claim, this time from Funimation. I'm like, what did I do now? And then, coming to find out, because I used the song Tank. And Tank, by the way, is a great, great song. I recommend it for anyone to listen to. It's a great piece. So I had to take it back down, recut it again, and submit it back. And also, by the way, I couldn't dispute it, so they wouldn't allow me to dispute the video. Even when I tried to, they wouldn't allow me to. So I had to just say, okay, yeah, for now I acknowledge this until I can, you know, fix it. But so I took it down, re-edited it again, and then submitted it back up. Copyright claim still from Funimation over the first episode, Asteroid Blues. I'm like, son of a fucking bitch. And I'm like, I cannot keep doing these edits. You know, and what's funny about the whole tank edit thing was, because of the tank edit, it actually cut down my video all the way from like 8 to 7. Yeah, because I had a minute worth of song in there, it cut it down from 8 to 7. That's surprising. So, with that whole controversy, the funny thing that soon happened afterwards was I acknowledged it at one point. I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to really re-edit it again. I can't do it. And so what ended up happening afterwards was, your video is blocked in certain countries. I'm like, well, I guess that's kind of a compromise. So I'm like, okay, what countries is it blocking? United Kingdom, Turkey, Greece, Iceland, Poland, all these countries. And I keep reading the list. United States of America. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You know, I can't show the video anywhere. No one will be able to watch the video. So at one point I'm just like, I'm done. I took down the episode and that was it. And that's why there is no episode 6 on the list, because I cannot keep competing with all this. And I don't really want to get a strike for trying to repeat, you know, re-edits all over again. So, and I, you know, am thinking of it now. The most I could have done was just put pictures in there, and, you know, that would have been it. So I hope with this commentary, I'll be able to put the full episode up like this and not have any copyright claim, because I'm probably going to keep the video mute and the commentary up high. So with that being said, guys, see you for the season finale. See you later. And screw you, YouTube. Funimation, I love you, but you've got to stop. And the stars, why? Bye, folks.